Want me to start the recording? All right. There we go. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Lynn Samita coming in from Vancouver, Canada, and I'm the host for this section. And just delighted to be introducing our next presenter. She really doesn't need an introduction. Kim Olver has been the executive director for WGI for 10 years. And so many of us have known and appreciated her. But one of the things that I really love to say, besides all of the professional credentials, the learning, she's just a voracious learner and keeping current and what's going on in different areas like trauma and so on. But the qualities that Kim brings, I think, to her work and to her presentations, to me, is what stands out. And so it's that personal relatability, so that it's no longer just information for your head, but it's something that can reach your heart and you can feel connected to. So on this topic, Kim, I'm so delighted you're willing. It was a requested topic. People wanted it. I know you've done lots on it. And so I'm very happy to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Lynn, for that beautiful introduction. You have brought tears to my eyes. That's not usually the way I start a presentation. I want to apologize for my background. I'm displaced. I'm not in Chicago right now. I'm in my son's house, and he has 4 children who are about to come home any minute, and the dogs will go crazy and it will be a little chaotic. So I'm locked in my son's bedrooms, or my grandson's bedrooms. So hence the wires. And I mean, it's just not the way I want to do it, but here I am. And I want to talk to you about relationships. So hopefully you'll forgive the background. If I could, I'm going to share my screen here, and I have a PowerPoint for you to look at instead of just looking at this background. Here we go. Yep. I'm calling this presentation. I see Omar has his hand up. Do you want to say something before we start?
I think that was left over from previous.
Okay. So I call it Secrets of Happy Couples because back in 2009, I think, I wanted to write a book about how couples get along and how you have a successful relationship, a committed relationship over time. And what I saw was a lot of people coming to me who just weren't happy. And it seemed like if they knew just some basic information, it would make things so much better for them. So I thought, okay, I'm going to write a book. And then I thought, who wants to hear one person's opinion about what couples need to do? So I started to request people who would complete my survey. And I had this survey for happy couples. And in order to be considered a happy couple, you had to have been together at least 10 years because, you know, everybody looks good in the beginning. Had to be together at least 10 years. And you both separately, when the other person wasn't there, needed to say to me that, yes, we're happy. And the unfortunate and very sad thing for me was people thought they were happy couples. And one person would say, we're so happy. We've been together for 17 years, 25 years, 46 years. And the other person would say, don't count us. I'm not happy. And they wouldn't say that obviously in front of the other person. It was in an individual survey that they completed, but it was just sad to me. And with all the speaking that I do, I'm in front of a lot of audiences, and I always ask people at the end, if you're a happy couple, if you know of a happy couple, would you please fill out my survey? And that's where I would get my people from. I was very careful not to get people specifically from a religious organization because I didn't want that confounding variable where, you know, it might just be that people in this particular denomination have the secret. So I didn't do that. And I assumed, you know what they say about assuming, it's not a good thing to do. And I would assume that it would take me about 6 months to find 100 happy couples. That was my timeline. You might know that the book wasn't published until 2011. because it took me 2 years to find 100 happy couples. The other thing that I found that was so sad is a lot of younger people were volunteering their parents as happy couples. And when the parents would come to me, they'd say, yeah, that's what we put on to our children, but that's not really the case, which was very sad to me, because if parents are communicating perfection to their children to try to get them to see how happy they are and they're really not, that sets those kids up to have an unrealistic expectation about what marriage is like. And so the cycle just continues. So after finding 100 happy couples, I was able to finish the book. So I'm going to give you some overview about what I discovered. And one of the things I did was, this book is called Secrets of Happy Couples, but it's really a journey through the relationship cycle. At the time I wrote the book, my husband had been gone for 10 years, and I was in a very happy relationship at the time. So I wanted to help people who had gone through a loss and were maybe looking to find new love in their life. So this is what I found. I call this the relationship cycle for long-term committed relationships, and it usually starts in the alone stage, where you're between relationships or you're about to have your very first relationship. I am aware that there are some people who really never go through the alone stage. There are some people who do serial relationships, and so they never experience the alone stage, and they are destined to date the same person with different names for the rest of their life. They just keep getting the same version of the same problem because they've never done the reflection that's necessary to move to a different place. So there's the alone stage. After that, there's the getting together stage. Where do you go? How do you meet people? That can be really awkward, especially for older people. I'm sure you might have heard younger people talking about swipe left, swipe right. What the heck does that mean? That's how young people are finding people now, is online dating. And for some of us, that's a little foreign and a little terrifying. I don't want to find my next partner by swiping anyway, right or left, up or down. And then there's the maintenance stage, which is what most people are really interested in. Once you've made the commitment, how do you keep that relationship fresh, exciting, happy? And then, I hate to say this, and I say it this way, unless both of you die at precisely the same moment, one of you is going to find yourself alone again. And then you have to navigate that alone stage in a different way, because that's going to be more of a grief and loss stage, not necessarily a preparation for getting into a new relationship. So let's look at what I have for these stages. So when you're in the alone stage, these are the things that characterize the alone stage to me. So people in this stage are either creating emotion, could be anger, depressing, loneliness, or they're engaged in serial relationships, like I already mentioned, or they are embracing the time alone as a gift. And I find that that last category is the most useful for being in the alone stage. This is when you change being lonely into simply being alone, and they are very different things. When you're alone and you can be happy and satisfied alone, versus being alone and feeling an emptiness and loneliness. So the tasks of the alone stage, people can either do this themselves. I basically wrote this up for counselors who might be working with clients as well. So these are some of the tasks when you're in the alone stage. You want to help your clients to resolve the grief from their past relationship, because there almost always will be grief, regrets, those kind of things. Determine what role they played in the breakup. It's so easy, as you know, to look outward and say, this was all your fault if you wouldn't have done this. But I find it's very rare to have just one person responsible for the ending of a relationship. Even if there was an affair, there's usually a part that the other person played in that breakup. So own your part. I know we just were dealing with Sophia, talking about taking responsibility. And I think that that's a big part of the alone stage. Then take stock about what they bring to a relationship. So who am I and what are my values and what do I bring to a relationship? And then get clear about what they want. I like to tell people to write your list about what you're looking for in a partner and make sure you record your non-negotiables, because you don't want to violate a non-negotiable. And when you get into a relationship, if you have feelings for someone, you may find yourself tempted to break a non-negotiable. And I say you should never do that. But I also say you should not have a list as long as your arm of non-negotiables. Non-negotiables, at the most, I think you should have 5. I think 3 to 5 is a good number. If you have more than that, you're really not interested in a relationship. You're looking for a romance novel character that really doesn't exist. So make your list of non-negotiables and then the things that you really would love to see in a partner. And those are things that if they're there, it's great. But if they're not there, you can, I like the 80-20 rule. If you can get 80% of the things that you really want in a partner, that's a good thing. But a lot of couples counselors stop there and they believe in the law of attraction. And if I write down and I'm specific about what I want, that this magical person is going to walk into my life, I think that leaves out a step, and it's a step of choice theory that's really important. And that is self-evaluating. So when you have your list of who you want, you don't have a person in mind. So it's got to just be an image of your quality world picture and what you're looking for. You look in the mirror and you say, if I met that person today, would they be interested in me? And if the answer to that question is no, then you have some work to do. You either change the vision of who you want into something a little more realistic, or you do some self-improvement and you decide, I want that person in my life, so I need to become the person that would attract them. Now, that's different from being in a relationship and turning yourself inside out, upside down to become the person that that person wants. I don't believe in that. But if you don't have a person, and this is just kind of hypothetical, I think it's good to create yourself into the person that would attract the people that you want. So that's the work of being in the alone stage. Once you've done that, you're probably ready to get together. Now, this is not my expertise. I have never said that I am a dating expert. If it were up to me, I would go from, hi, how do you do? You seem to meet my criteria. Let's be committed, because I don't like this uncertain, crazy dating part. So what I have in here, I got from other dating experts. This is not my information for this next stage. So getting together, let's look at that. The person is in this stage when they say that they're ready to start dating again. And then they're wondering, where do I find people? How do I meet people? And then once they meet someone, do I stay with this person or do I kick them to the curb? What do I do? Because it's that awkward stage. This is the stuff I really don't like. So now the tasks of the getting together stage. It's when you move from needing someone to wanting someone. And I think this is really a mature way of looking at relationships. If you feel that you need someone, that tells me that you don't feel complete yourself. And if you're not feeling complete yourself, you're bringing half of a person into a relationship, and you need 2 whole people in a relationship. So yes, I want a relationship in my life. I'd like to share my life with someone. I'd like someone to be there and share their life with them. That's different from, oh, I have to have a relationship. And I also think when we're desperate and needing, that's not very attractive. And it doesn't tend to bring the people we're looking for into our lives. You need to become open to meeting new people. You cannot sit in your living room unless you plan to date the TV repair guy or the person from Comcast, the electrical guy that comes in to fix stuff in your house. You gotta be open to meeting new people and find someone with whom you might like to explore a relationship with. And depending on how picky you are, this could happen very quickly, or it could happen very slowly. But that is up to you. Depending, I mean, there's people who will introduce you to people that are single that you might want to be involved with. What I like to tell people is live your life in this stage. Do the things that you enjoy doing, and you'll naturally meet people who are doing the same things. If, like, I was a soccer mom, and so I'm a single woman taking my kids to the soccer game. I was a wrestling mom, and one of the people that I dated was a wrestling dad. We happened to meet in the stands of a wrestling match. When you're living your life doing the things you want, you'll meet other people who are doing that. Don't join a gym if exercise is not your thing. It's like you go to the gym till you get the person, and once you get the person, you stop going to the gym, and they're like, who are you? And why did you change? So live your life and just be open to the people that come into your life. So from there, when you find someone that you're enjoying time with, then at some point, one of you or both of you are going to ask the question, should we take this to a committed, exclusive level? And we know that you're in that stage when you're in a relationship with someone that you really like. You may even feel like you love them. And you want to explore the option of moving to a stronger commitment, or they do. And then when they do and they broach the subject, then you decide, is that something I'm interested in? And then you want to help clients determine if they're compatible for the longer haul. And I know, Lynn, you mentioned diversity. And I think of two people in a relationship as bringing two diverse backgrounds, even if they're from the same town, the same religion, the same ethnicity. We bring different things from our family of origin, and we are two different people. That idea, I hope I don't offend anybody with this statement, but I think it's a little ridiculous when people say, and two shall become one. Two can't become one. This is not a magician gig. Two people with two individual value systems, knowledge, quality world pictures are trying to be together in a loving, committed way. And that is hard. And that's why, at least in the United States, a little more than 50% of our marriages end in divorce. It's very difficult to do, especially when you don't learn how to approach each other with curiosity instead of judgment. That is the most important thing when you're looking at diversity. Help me understand why you think that. Help me understand why that value is most important in this scenario. Not that you're looking to prove them wrong, you're trying to understand where they're coming from. So the tasks of this stage is to become very clear, even more clear than you were before about what you want in a relationship. And listen and learn what your partner says they want. This is a little tricky because I'm going to make some broad generalizations, and there's certainly exceptions to this. But in relationships, I often find that men say what they want and they mean it. Women don't say what they want and they expect the man to read their minds. And this can also cause some challenges because one of the skills that men don't tend to possess is mind reading abilities. Women tend to be a little better at that, even though we are flawed at it, but we're a little bit better because we're the nurturer. And we're caring in general, we care mostly for children. So we anticipate what they need because in the beginning they can't tell us. So we develop this skill of anticipating others' needs. Doesn't mean we're great at it with our partners, but what happens with us women is our partner will tell us something they want and we're reading between the lines. And men don't have lines, but we tell our partners things and there's all kinds of nuances and lines. And those poor men have trouble because they're direct communicators. So it's really a wonder any relationships work out in the long haul, but there is hope for people. That's what I want to say here. And then also revisit your non-negotiables, find out your partner's non-negotiables and the areas of flexibility that you have, and distinguish between when to commit and when to let go. I know people who are with the wrong person. They know they don't want to commit, but they keep that person around. And when you do that because you don't want to be alone, it's better than nobody. You're blocking someone else from coming into your life because that space for a partner is already filled. So sometimes you need to tolerate that alone stage while you're waiting to meet the right person. All right, now we get into the maintenance stage, which is probably the biggest one in the book. I have many things I say about the maintenance stage. So you know you're in the maintenance stage when you're in a committed exclusive relationship for some time. And the question that people often are asking is, how do we keep this relationship fresh? You don't want it to get stale. You don't want to get bored. You don't want it to be so predictable that it becomes ho-hum. But there is a lot to be said for that stability and that security and that safety that we feel in those relationships. And then we know that one of the secrets of happy couples is prioritizing that relationship over your own individual needs. That can be exhausting. So how do you continue to do that over time? So here are some of the tasks of the maintenance stage. When I did this survey, one of the things that I found was that the happy couples said that they had something bigger than themselves that they were accountable to in the relationship. It was either a higher power or they prioritized the relationship over their own individual needs. So they would ask themselves in a conflictual scenario, what would God want me to do? Or what does the relationship need right now? And that was a very big question that helped people move forward in the relationship in a positive way. I also love talking about the platinum rule. If you've heard me talk about the connecting relationship habits, I bring this in all the time. And it's about respecting others. And most of us were taught as children some version of the golden rule, which is do unto others as they would have you do unto them. And it makes sense until you really think about it. And when you scratch below the surface and you think about respect and diversity, for example, Lynn, do you think that respect looks the same for me as it does for you, as it does for Denzel, as it does for anybody else on this meeting? It doesn't. So the platinum rule is not mine. I wish it were. It's brilliant, but it was developed by this man named Tony Alessandra in the business world. And he said, it's best to do unto others as they would have you do unto them. So it takes the time to listen and ask the questions to find out, how do you want me to treat you? And this can lead into the 5 love languages, but it also talks about, how do you feel respect from me? What helps you to know that I respect you? And then you do what the person says is their version of respect. And I'm older, and I was very it was a time in the 90s, I think, when John Gray wrote his book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And most people of my era have read that book who had any interest in relationships at all. And I think that he had a lot of male female kinds of things, and now we're looking at sexuality not as male female anymore. But I think that we could talk about energies, and male energy and female energy exists in all of us. And so one of the things he talked about is female energy predominant people tend to, when they're upset, need to vent. We vent not once and done, as many times as it takes to process the information. Male energy people, on the other hand, tend to want to isolate while they figure out what's bothering them. Or they call up an expert who knows how to handle it and they get the answers. So when a female predominant person talks to their partner when they're upset and they're venting, the partner often tries to solve the problem, which further agitates the woman. And so the other option that they do, that I was involved with a guy like this once, he'd see I was upset and he'd say, "Oh, I see you're upset. I'll leave you alone." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I don't want you to leave me alone. I need to talk about it." So we tend to treat each other with the golden rule. When the male is isolating, what do we females do? We follow them around and we say, "What's wrong? Talk to me. Tell me the problem. And did I do something?" And all they want to do is be left alone so they can think and figure it out. So we have internal processors and external processors. And if we could just engage the platinum rule instead of trying to do it with the golden rule, we would be much further ahead in having a healthy relationship. So the man, I often say, all you need to do is nod your head and say, "Oh, baby, I'm so sorry that happened to you." And we'll be happy. And women, know that men are like boomerangs. Let them go, they'll come back. You don't have to worry, chase them down, find out what's wrong. They need the time to figure it out on their own. So platinum rule works really well, I find, in relationships. Develop effective communication patterns. And I have to use the word effective because we have communication patterns in all our relationships, and they are not always effective unless the effect that you're trying to have is to cause problems. So we need to be able to effectively communicate what our needs are, what we want, and support people when they're effectively communicating to us. So it's a two-way street. It involves some learning. It's not easy. And I like to talk about the dance of sex and romance. I believe that in the beginning of a relationship, there's a lot of both of those things, sex and romance, and it's beautiful. And that's when we fall in love. And that's the wonder of relationships that we can engage in. But then life happens, and life has a way of draining our energy. And when we're feeling a little depleted, someone is going to not step up in the romance or the sex department. I don't know who it's going to be, but usually in relationships, one person, I'm sorry, let me say this. Everybody values both sex and romance. But if you tell people they have to choose one, what often happens in relationships is you'll find one person values romance over sex and the other values sex over romance. Mm-hmm. And so this can create conflict. So when it happens and one person pulls back just ever so slightly, "I'm too tired tonight, honey," something like that, then that person feels rejected and they pull back a little because they're feeling vulnerable or insecure. And then it starts this downward spiral where there's less and less and less. And we tend to use the golden rule in this situation too, and it's a bad idea. So if I'm the person that values sex in the relationship and I want more sex, I tend to be more sexual with my romantic partner, and they're looking for romance. So when I'm trying to have sex, I forget the romance part, and they're feeling used and abused. Mm-hmm. And if I happen to be the romance partner and I want more romance in my life, and I get very flirtatious and romantic and lovey-dovey with my partner, they're feeling teased, and they can feel very hurt by that. So I like to tell people that when you want more sex in your relationship, you need to be more romantic. And when you want more romance in your relationship, you need to be more sexual. And it's about using the platinum rule, giving your partner the thing that they want so that they can then give you what you want. And if you're both doing that at the same time, it can be really powerful. If one of you is unhappy in the relationship and you're doing it yourself, you will find it has a beneficial effect, but it may feel like, well, why do I have to be the one? Well, that goes to something I have, I think, on the next slide called problem identification. So let me hold on to that for a minute. I'm not going to do Last Day on Earth. That's a poem that I have in my book, and I don't have a book handy to read it to you. So just know that I found this woman who wrote a poem about how when her husband was alive, She was frustrated because he would make a mess, leave things laying around, eat the last cookie, never confess. And then she said, but I should be happy now because now I'm alone and I can, live my life the way that I want, and he's not there. And she talks about how lonely she is. So I like people in committed relationships to live every day with their partner as if it could be their last, because the truth is it could be their last. You don't know. And so when you go to bed at night, ask yourself the question, if something happens to my partner, will I be proud of how they know? Will I be proud that they know how much that I feel for them, how important they are to me, how much I love them? And if the answer is no, then do something to help your partner know how important they are to you. So I like scheduling regular date nights. It's hard to do when you have children, but it's really important to get some alone time with your partner where you're not 100% exhausted and depleted. Don't take it personal. This is something I talk about in Mental Freedom with the Unconditional Trust Challenge. Remember what we know from choice theory, and that's that every single person is doing the best they can at any moment to get what they want. It's not about you. They're not trying to hurt you. They're just trying to get what they need. And so we need to have some compassion, understanding, support. And it's hard to do when you're feeling attacked and defensive. So try not to take it personally. Appreciate difference. I have this thing I call the relationship staircase, and it starts with conflict. And to go one step up from conflict is tolerate. But I don't know anybody who would want to stay at the tolerate step, because who wants to say, oh, honey, I love you. I decided to tolerate you today. That's not where you want to be, but it's better than conflict. So I'm not fighting, I'm tolerating. The next step is understanding. I'm going to work hard to understand where you're coming from. The next step is accepting. I accept that that's your position. I'm not trying to change you anymore. And the next step is appreciating by trying to find the benefit for you in your partner being the way that they are, because there is going to be a benefit. You just have to look for it instead of digging into the conflict. Look at, how does this serve me? The fact that I'm a spontaneous, crazy, fun person, and my partner is a saver who's always wanting to plan things out. Well, I can see benefit on both sides for the partner. So you just have to look for, how does this actually help you? And then you can appreciate. And then the problem identification is, whose problem is it when you're mad about something having to do with your partner? And we often believe that it's the partner's problem. If you would just put your clothes in the hamper, my life would be so much better. And the other thing I hear is, if you would just put gas in the car. Every time I get into the car, you've got the red light on the dash that says you only have a couple miles. Why do you do that? And what I say is, it's not the partner's problem. They're not thinking about it. The person who left dirty clothes on the floor is not at work that day thinking, oh man, I forgot to put my clothes in the hamper. Nor is the person who lets the gas gauge light up the dash saying, oh, I forgot to get gas. So when you're frustrated by something in a relationship, use it as an opportunity to show your partner how much you love them, even if they never notice it, by taking care of your problem, because you're the one who's upset by it. They aren't. So the person who owns the problem is the person who is most frustrated by the problem. And then I think we're going to run out of time to really go through the 5 love languages, but this is an author and a book that I recommend to a lot of my couples. It does not have research behind it. Doesn't mean that it is not evidence-based. We just haven't done the research to prove it. But the idea is that we have these 5 love languages, and one of them is usually our dominant way that we know someone loves us. We generally like most of these things. I mean, sure, who doesn't like to get a gift? Who doesn't like to be touched? Some people don't like to be touched. Words of affirmation is not my love language. If somebody's using words of affirmation with me, I'm wondering the whole time, what do you want? I'm a little suspicious. I'm a quality time girl. If I'm spending time with you, it's because I care about you. And that's how I feel love. So the question is, which of these 5 confirms for you that someone cares for you? And it's often different from our partners. So the idea of the 5 love languages is to learn what your partner's love language is and speak it. So it requires you to become bilingual, sometimes trilingual. And here is the link. If you want to go here, you can actually take the quiz yourself and find out your own love language. And you can ask your partner to do the same, and you could make it a game how you can try to speak one another's love language. And physical touch, I like to say, is not just sex, by the way. Physical touch are those couples you see in a restaurant who sit on the same side of the booth so their legs can touch, or who are walking down the street arm in arm or holding hands. It's that kind of physical touch. Acts of service is the honey-do list, doing things for your partner. Receiving gifts does not have to be expensive. It could be that you pick a flower on your way home and you hand it to your partner. Quality time is just prioritizing the person that you're with for that time. Put your cell phone away. Give quality time. And words of affirmation are telling your partner how important they are to you and why, and what you appreciate, love, and respect about them. So, like I said, unfortunately, we often can come back, whether death, divorce, or personal decision. You may find yourself alone again and back in the alone stage. And this is a time to really navigate that loss. You know, you're in that stage when you decide it's time to actually rejoin the living. That's when you're starting to come out of that alone stage again. And the tasks are to recognize grief as a total chosen behavior. This was difficult for me after my husband died, but I understood grief watching myself and watching my mother-in-law, who also lost her son. Her choosing grief was to show the world how important her son was to her. And she would never get over that grief until the day she died, and had no interest in getting over that grief. If I told her I could take it away with a snap of my finger, she would say, please don't. And for me, I understood grief as my total behavior to get the support and the people I needed to help me during that time. And it was effective for me, and it was effective for her in very different ways. And also, I like to think of grief as our best attempt to keep the person active in our perception, because there's a big hole. This person is missing, but they're a quality world picture still. So how the grieving process helps you remember them, helps you keep them active in your perception while you still have that strong quality world picture. I also think it's important, this is not about death now, this is about divorce or decision, for us to stop trying to hold people that want to be free. We need to allow relationships to run their natural course. I'm a firm believer in some people are brought into our life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And we should not be making reason or season people lifetime people, because that will make both of us miserable. And then I really like the glow. I use this in my work in mental freedom and grief and trauma. It's about identifying the gifts, the lessons, the opportunities, and the wisdom within our loss. They're always there. We just have to recognize they're there and take the time to find them. It's hard to do because our brains, as we know from neuroscience, are hardwired for negativity. So the pain is what's predominant for us. But if we can accept and stop trying to change the pain, stop fighting against it, stop resisting it, and then say, okay, I accept, I feel the pain. Now I want to find what the other side is, because there's always another side. And I think I'm just going to click through this. These are some reasons. about grief. And I think that's the last click through that. Oh no, one more. It can slow life down to give you time to remember that person. And the glow is about changing the perception by finding the balance, pain and benefit. And when you find the balance, you're released from the pain. It's still there, but you have the benefits to balance it out. You're not held hostage by that pain anymore. But until you find it, that pain can really keep you from enjoying and living your life. And so this is what I found from Dr. Seuss, my favorite quote with grief. Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. If you have something that you're grieving that hard for, it must have been pretty special. So be grateful for the time that you had it and know that not everything lasts forever. In fact, I don't know anything that lasts forever. And so I'm just going to click through this quickly. These are the 20 things that I got from my 100 happy couples of the characteristics and behaviors of people who claim to be happy couples. And I bolded Dr. Glasser's caring habits, and they showed up in the top 20. So I thought that was pretty cool because I wasn't specifically looking for it, but they were definitely there. And they're listed in order of importance, with the first one being the number one. So effective communication is what most people spoke of. And now I'm just going to click through the rest. So it's funny, but great sex was only number 10 for those of you who prioritize that. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 7 were in the top 10. And here's the last 10. All good stuff. And then the actual secrets that I found in working and doing this survey. So there were 4. Some of them I was surprised by. I wasn't expecting them. One I was hoping to find, and I did. So I guess I had a little research bias on this. But the first one is monogamy. And I wasn't expecting that, but that's what I found. Most people spoke of monogamy and the ability to trust and, know that that person was loyal and faithful. The second one was prioritizing something bigger than their individual selves, whether that was a higher power or the actual relationship when they were trying to negotiate differences. And you'll recognize that from Dr. Glasser's Solving Circle, but that wasn't what I was expecting to find. It was the third one that I was really looking for. And that was complete acceptance of one's partner, the ability to stop trying to change the other person. I think that more than anything is the thing that tears relationships apart. Because even though you think you're trying to improve your partner and make their life better, what the partner hears is criticism, and criticism over a long haul ends in the destruction of relationships. And the last one was that effective communication that I talked about earlier, effective being the important word there. And that's it. I just wanted to let you see what the book looks like. It is available on Amazon if you're interested in it. It's Secrets of Happy Couples, Loving Yourself, Your Partner, and Your Life. And that is what I have for you all. So thank you. And yeah.
Thank you, Kim. That was a fabulous tour through the landscape of relationships. So
Thank
we
you.
have a few minutes for questions, and you can put them in the chat. You can put your hand up. We'll get to as many as we can for a full 6 minutes before we have to stop. So the floor is now open to things people might want to ask about. Well, and I can kick one off, Kim, because one of the things that's been showing up a lot is awareness of diversity in terms of how people process, whether it's ADHD as an adult, a partner, and the profiles that go with that, or other kinds of neurological processing. Would you just comment on, I know generally, obviously, you've talked about acceptance, but what else would you add in that area? Because I think a lot of people, we haven't recognized this factor.
Well, I am certainly not an expert on that, but I did do a podcast with a woman who is. And, if you want to look up that podcast, it's about counseling the neurodiverse couple.
Mhm.
And a lot of times, what the people that she works with, she'll have a neurotypical person connected with an atypical partner, somebody with, usually it's someone on the autism spectrum.
Mhm.
And the biggest thing is understanding what that actually means and not expecting them to act in a typical way, because they won't. So it's understanding what you can expect from the person and trying to understand how they think about things is different from how you think about things. So being able to process in a different way. Autistic people on the autism spectrum have some relationship challenges, and it isn't because they don't care about you. It's because they have difficulty expressing that. And what they learn about how to express it, they've usually seen on television, which isn't the best teacher of how to express things. So I found personally that that podcast incredibly helpful. So I think that's as much as I can confidently say about it, but look up that podcast. I think it's called Counseling the Neurodiverse Couple.
And do you
And
know
if
the
you
woman?
I'm sorry,
Do you know the name of the woman?
I
No.
can't think of her name right now, but if you're interested in that, just shoot me an email. I'll put my email in the chat and I'll find it for you, because I could find it in just a couple of seconds. So you don't have to spend a lot of time looking for it. But
Okay.
here's my
And while you're doing that, Melissa has said, wonderful presentation, Kim. The sex and romantic needs spoke to me. So
good.
well understood.
Yeah, it's so true. And what happens when you start in that, pulling back just a bit, after time, both start to feel like this person doesn't love me. And that couldn't be further from the truth. It's just, we've got to do the opposite of what we want to be able to get what we want, which is I don't even know the irony of it all, I guess.
Yeah, that's such a powerful flip, the platinum rule, which we've all been so immersed, I think, in that concept of the golden rule and really missed the mark in many ways.
So much so.
The other thing I think is people often treat themselves very poorly. So if you're going to treat others the way you treat yourself, that's not going to be a good model.
Right.
All right. So other questions.
So
I notice Frida's not jumping on. I thought the sex and romance part might speak to you, Farida.
I'm touching AT, Lynn.
Oh, good. You're touching into it. Good.
No, I'm touching AT, Lynn.
Oh, you're touching.
So you're not thinking sex and romance anymore? Is that what you're saying? Come on.
I like being cheeky to others, so they start thinking about it.
There you go. Was there another question?
Yeah.
Yes, Nancy.
I have fallen back on this many times. There's something that you taught one time, Kim, in one of your presentations about trust, because I think that was one of the difficulties I had for many years of my life. And I loved what you taught me about trust. Would you explain what your definition for trust is?
Oh gosh, I hope it's the same as it is now, because now what I say about trust is we get in trouble in relationships because we trust the other person to be the person we want them to be, the quality world picture we have in our head. And nobody can meet that because our quality world pictures are perfect. We don't have mediocre in our quality world. We don't even have compromised in our quality world. We have perfect in our quality world. So I like to trust everybody, whether I know them or I don't know them, to do the one thing I know they're going to do. Everybody is going to do the best they can to get what they want in that specific moment. And when you trust people for that, you gain so much clarity about who they are. You first know what they want. That's number one. And number two is you also now are privy to the best behavior they have to get it. And so that can affect how you see that relationship. Are you all in? Do you need to end it? Do you need some boundaries? Do you want to move a little slower, a little faster? I mean, it really puts the ball in your court. Then you have the responsibility to decide what you want to do when you see the person more clearly, when you see them with that fog over your eyes about, well, I know you could be the person I want you to be. You're really criticizing them in a way that they feel intensely and you don't intend. So I didn't know, Nancy, that was something that you were using, but it helps. Does it help you?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I'm so
Made a
glad.
huge difference.
Excellent. I call that the unconditional trust challenge for those of you who want to take it. Yes, Khadijah.
We've just got 1 minute. Go for it, Kim. Go.
Yes, yeah. Actually, I'm a family therapist or family counselor, and I met many wives, and the most important elements for them, maybe it's one of your secrets, is that they don't know how to communicate or to express their feelings, either because of their lack of education or lack of knowledge. They don't know themselves, so they don't know how to express their feelings. And the second one, that they don't know how to negotiate also. So it's communicating wise, the most important element. Also, they want to change the other. Yes.
Three.
They want
All
to change
day
their
long.
partner. Yeah.
Yes,
Really,
absolutely.
they come to us, they said, I want to change my husband. He's doing this and that.
Yeah.
So the
Thank
quality
you.
word is different. They don't know this. So I'm teaching them.
Good.
Yeah, I'm
Good.
trying to apply the choice theory in my sessions, therapy sessions, counseling sessions.
Very good. Do
As
you use the
much as
solving circle when you're negotiating?
Sorry?
Do you use Glasser's solving circle when you're negotiating?
Glassers, yes, yes. Yeah, I'm trying.
Beautiful.
I'm trying to apply it really. Yeah.
Nice.
It's very important. I find it helpful also.
Yeah, and I find it just a word of caution, and I'm sure you don't do this if you know choice theory, but when you're teaching people to communicate feelings, it's really important for them not to be communicating their feelings as the consequence of something about their partner. We learned that as children. I feel sad when you do this. Well, that's not true. I feel sad because I don't want you to do that again. And I'm trying to get you to see how much you've hurt me. So I feel like the feeling component is maybe not as relevant for me in couples counseling as what you're thinking about. I want to know what you're thinking. The feeling is stuff that we create as our best attempt to get what we want from our partners sometimes. And it's not always pretty.
Yes, yes.
Kim,
Anyway.
thank you so very
It's
much.
not
I'm
easy.
really
Yeah,
delighted
thanks.
that we have this recorded because there's so much good information in there that people can go back to and look at the different phases of the cycle. So thank you once again for a great presentation. Thank you everyone for being here. Let's give Kim a big
Thank you.
round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really,
Thanks.
I love talking about this stuff. So thank you for having me as one of the presenters. I appreciate it.
Looking
Wonderful.
forward to get your book, Kim.
There you go.
I know it's on Amazon, so I don't know how that will work. But if you have
Amazon,
trouble, I
okay.
have a PDF, I have an ebook, so you can always write to me about that if you can't find the actual book.
Right.
Ah,
Okay.
great to know.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right,
All right.
everyone. Thank you for being here. We